Hi, John McElroy here talking all things automotive. And today I want to talk about Cadillac. You know, the name Cadillac used to be synonymous with the best. People would talk about something being the Cadillac of whatever, the Cadillac of healthcare plans, the Cadillac of high-end sound systems. Or some of you will know that the World War II P-51 Mustang was even referred to as the Cadillac of the sky. And that's because there was a time when Cadillac was considered the finest luxury car that you could buy. It represented the best of anything. Ever since Cadillac won the prestigious Doer Award in England way back in 1908, it adopted the slogan, the standard of the world. And it was, until it lost it sometime in the 1970s and never got it back. Now, Cadillac is pinning its resurgence on the Celestiq, a hand-built luxury sedan that will be made in extremely low volume. I believe that if Cadillac truly wants to be considered as the standard of the world again, it needs to charge at least $350,000 for this car, maybe more. And though many of you will think I'm out of my mind, let me go through the history of how I came to this conclusion. Cadillac was founded by Henry Leland in 1902, which he later sold to General Motors. And not many people are aware of this, but Leland also started the Lincoln Motor Company, which he later sold to Ford. That's right. The same guy who started Cadillac also started Lincoln. Leland was a stickler for precision machining, and he wanted to show the world the superiority of Cadillac's quality and engineering. In 1908, the Royal Automobile Club of Great Britain announced that the Doer Trophy that year would go to any automaker that could achieve the perfect interchangeability of parts. In Europe at that time, this was unheard of. Every part that went into a car had to be hand-finished and finessed. Literally, every car was different. Nothing was interchangeable. And only one automaker had the confidence to enter the competition: Cadillac. Leland provided the judges with 3 cars, which they completely disassembled, jumbled up all the parts, and reassembled the cars. Not only did the pieces fit together perfectly, the judges were able to drive each car for 500 miles without any problems. And then in 1912, Cadillac won the Doer Trophy again, this time for offering the first car with an electric self-starter. That started the company on a path where it would excel in technological leadership. In 1914, it was the first to make a mass-produced V8 engine. Winning the Doer trophies and coming out with that V8 really put Cadillac on the map. But all that did was earn it the reputation as one of the finest engineered cars that you could buy. Not necessarily the best luxury car. That honor went to Packard. Owning a Packard was considered being at the top of social prestige. In 1920, General Motors went through a thorough reorganization, and Cadillac was given the task of overtaking and surpassing Packard. But it wasn't easy. For example, when Cadillac came out with its V8, Packard came out with a V12. So in 1930, Cadillac came out with a V16. Even though there were other engines with more power in the eyes of the public, having a V16 meant you had the ultimate, something that no one else had, and you could only get it from Cadillac. That created a halo effect for the rest of the brand. Throughout the 1920s and 30s, Cadillac went on a product onslaught. A V12 was added, and more models, more body styles, longer wheelbases, and even custom bodies from Fleetwood. It took 20 years, from roughly 1920 until 1940, but Cadillac finally surpassed Packard as the top luxury brand, and it stayed there until the 1970s. But that should give you an idea of how hard it is to get the public to believe your car is the best. It took 20 years of unrelenting effort. What killed Cadillac's image is that it got greedy. Instead of maintaining its air of exclusivity, it went for sales volume. Cadillac's general manager during most of the 1970s was Bob Lund, who had come from Chevrolet, and he brought a Chevrolet marketing mentality with him. By 1979, Cadillac sales were nearly 45% higher than they were in 1970. And while everyone at GM was patting themselves on the back for selling over 345,000 Cadillacs, no one seemed to realize they had destroyed the brand's image. Cadillacs were everywhere. They were no longer exclusive. Meanwhile, around 1970, Mercedes-Benz became the first luxury brand to come out with a car that cracked the $10,000 price barrier. Mercedes-Benz dealers thought the company was nuts. They thought no one was going to pay 10 grand for a car, except that they did. You see, amongst the very wealthy, buying the best is very important. Why do you think the Mercedes uses the tagline, the best or nothing? It's because they know the rich want the best. And when Mercedes priced its top car at 10 grand, it instantly seared in everyone's mind that the best car that you could buy was a Mercedes. And Cadillac made it easy for Mercedes. It came out with a slew of models that were decidedly not the standard of the world, like the downsized front-wheel drive Cadillacs of the early 1980s. I mean, come on, a downsized Cadillac? That's an oxymoron. Then came the Cimarron, a cheap front-wheel drive compact car that was a badge-engineered version of the Chevrolet Cavalier. Those cars destroyed Cadillac's image. It made several runs at trying to regain its former glory. It really did. The science and art strategy it launched about 2 decades ago boosted sales, and the more recent V-Series performance cars, which are absolutely world-class, have helped boost the brand image. But it hasn't been enough. In the court of public opinion, Cadillac is still not at the level of Mercedes, BMW, or Audi. And that's why it's doing the Celestiq. First off, it recognizes the move to electric cars presents it with a real opportunity and maybe its last chance to climb to the top of the luxury class, to become the standard of the world again. The Celestiq is a big sedan, pure electric. Cadillac hasn't released any specs, but I've seen a design studio mock-up of the car, and to my eye, it looks to be about as long as a Cadillac Escalade. But it's not squared off like the Slade with a big blingy grille. Instead, it's got a clean, long look that slopes down to a fastback and a boat-tail rear end. When you see it out on the street, it's going to make a statement. In fact, that's how I hear GM referred to this car internally, as the statement. More importantly, the Celestiq will be hand-built. General Motors is currently picking their best UAW workers with the highest skills and abilities to make these cars. And Cadillac has released some pictures of details of the car that show an exquisite attention to detail and design. My favorite is the door hinge, which looks like a piece of finely machined equipment that you could proudly display in your living room. Since the top-line Escalade V-Series cost $150,000, I thought that at first, Cadillac would charge about $200,000 for the Celestiq, maybe even $250,000. But then I learned they're only going to build 400 of them a year for the global market. That's when I realized this car is going to be far more exclusive than anything that Mercedes offers, even more exclusive than anything from Rolls-Royce. I mean, 400 cars a year is nothing. They could probably sell that many in China alone. And when you build something in very low volume, you have to charge a lot more to cover all your costs. Since the cheapest Rolls-Royce right now costs about $330,000, I realized that Cadillac has got to charge at least that, and probably more. That's why I'm saying the Celestiq will cost over $350,000. In fact, I hear they're going to offer a bespoke version where customers can order just about anything they want on the car. And those versions will likely go for over $400,000. You know, the rich not only want to buy the best, they want everyone else to know they're driving the best and that they spent a lot of money on it. They're not looking for bargains or discounts, but they also want to know they spent their money wisely, that they got something incredibly exclusive with lots of fantastic features and which will broadcast to the rest of the world that they have impeccable taste and are somebody truly special. You give them that and they'll buy it. If I'm right about the price and the sales volume, then the Celestiq program is only going to generate about $150 million a year in revenue. As you probably know, $150 million in the auto industry is chump change. That kind of money falls off the table when GM's counting the profits. And that shows this program is not about generating profits or sales. It's about creating an image of exclusivity, the kind of image that will create a halo for the rest of the models in the lineup. And that's the kind of effort it's going to take for Cadillac to get back to being the standard of the world.